The storm hit without warning. Rain lashed against the windshield as Alara fought to keep her small rental car on the winding forest road. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the twisted shapes of the trees that clawed at the night. Her knuckles were white on the steering wheel, breath shallow. She had never been afraid of storms. Until now. It wasn't just the weather. Something in the forest felt wrong. Every instinct in her body screamed that she wasn't alone. And then she saw him. At first, he was just a figure in the rain. A man standing in the middle of the road, drenched, shoulders squared, eyes glinting in the brief lightning flashes. Her instincts screamed to swerve, but it was too late. Tires skidded on wet asphalt, the car fishtailing dangerously. She slammed on the brakes, but gravity and momentum had other plans. Her car spun violently before sliding into a ditch, coming to a harsh, jarring stop against the muddy bank. Heart pounding, ears ringing, she struggled to breathe. The rain stung her face, but adrenaline surged hotter. She had to get out. Through the storm, she saw him approach. Wet, tall, and impossibly commanding, he moved with the precision of a predator. Alara's rational mind wanted to scream, to run, but her legs felt rooted to the spot. "Are you hurt?" His voice was low, even beneath the storm, resonant in a way that vibrated through her chest. I think I'm okay," she stammered, though the shock made her tremble. How did you—" "Doesn't matter," he interrupted, eyes sharp and calculating. His gaze roamed over her and the wreckage of the car. "You shouldn't be out here. Not tonight." Alara's stomach twisted. Something about him was wrong, almost feral, yet undeniably magnetic. Her instincts screamed both danger and protection. Who are you?" she asked, voice barely audible over the pounding rain. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he extended a hand, a strange mixture of invitation and command. "Come with me," he said simply. "If you want to survive this night, you'll do exactly that." Fear coiled in her stomach, but the pull was undeniable. Something in the storm, something in his presence, told her that saying no wasn't really an option. Hesitantly, she took his hand, and he led her away from the wreck, through the storm, toward a path that disappeared into the darkness of the forest. The rain washed over her, cold and relentless, but it couldn't drown out the sense that her life had just shifted irreversibly. She didn't know his name, didn't know why he was here, and certainly didn't understand the magnetic pull that rooted her to him. And yet, as the wind howled and the trees groaned under the tempest, one truth became terrifyingly clear. She was no longer safe in the world she knew. And this stranger, this man with eyes like gold lightning, was now entwined with her fate. She would learn soon enough that survival wasn't the only thing at stake. Desire, danger, and destiny were waiting in the shadows, and there was no escaping him, or the deal he had just made. The forest seemed endless, the rain-soaked path twisting like a living thing beneath her boots. Alara followed the tall, silent man who had rescued her from the wreck. His presence was magnetic, almost overwhelming, and every instinct in her screamed to stay close while simultaneously keeping her distance. "You can't keep walking blindly in this storm," he said, voice low but carrying an edge of authority that made her shiver. "It's dangerous for you." She bit back a retort. "Dangerous? That's an understatement. Who are you? Why are you helping me?" Her words trembled as much as her hands, but she refused to let fear dominate her completely. He glanced at her, expression unreadable. "You have a way of asking questions without thinking of the consequences," he said, almost amused, yet his eyes glinted with something sharper. Warning, perhaps, or a challenge. "I'm thinking," she muttered, though she knew it sounded weak, "about how I just nearly died and how you—" Saved you, he finished, tone flat. Yes. Consider yourself lucky. Most people don't survive nights like this without making mistakes. You did. Barely. Alara frowned. Why me? There are plenty of people in this forest. Why were you… He cut her off with a glance, sharp and penetrating. Because fate doesn't pick the obvious. It doesn't hand you chances you can control. It places you where you're meant to be. Right now, you're meant to be here. With me. The words made her stomach twist. A mixture of fear and an inexplicable pull. She had no idea what he meant, and yet something inside her, primal and deep, told her it was true. They came to a small clearing, the storm still lashing around them, but slightly less vicious. The man stopped, turning fully to face her for the first time. His wet hair clung to his forehead, water dripping from the sharp lines of his jaw. Even in the rain, he seemed untouchable, otherworldly, as if the forest itself acknowledged his presence. You need shelter, he said simply. There's a cabin nearby. It's empty. For now. Alara hesitated. Empty? How do I know I can trust you? His eyes softened fractionally, the golden hue flickering like sunlight through storm clouds. Trust isn't a choice tonight, he said. It's survival. Her mind screamed caution, but the pull, the strange instinctual draw she felt toward him, made her step forward. Lead the way, she said softly. The path to the cabin was narrow and slick with mud. Every step was an exercise in balance and concentration, but every step also brought them closer, not just physically, but emotionally. She couldn't ignore the way his presence seemed to press against her skin, magnetic and primal. When they reached the cabin, he paused. Wait here, he said, his gaze scanning the trees. I'll make sure it's safe. Alara watched him move, silent, fluid, almost unnerving in the way he seemed to meld with the shadows of the forest. She felt a thrill, fear and fascination tangled together, because even as she feared the unknown, she knew she would follow him anywhere. Minutes passed. She waited, heart racing, wondering if this stranger was truly human, or something else entirely. When he finally returned, he held the door open. It's secure, he said. For now. Inside, the cabin smelled of old wood and smoke. Warmth from a small, flickering fire brushed against her chilled skin. She looked at him, noticing for the first time the tension in his shoulders, the faint scar above his brow. You're not like anyone I've ever met, she said, voice almost a whisper. He gave a small, almost imperceptible smirk. Most people aren't, he said. Then, after a pause, he added, voice low and serious. And tonight, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're alive, that you're here. Alara nodded, but she couldn't shake the unease, or the strange, undeniable pull toward him. She had no idea who he was, what he wanted, or what she was stepping into. And yet, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Her life had just changed forever. The cabin was quiet now, the storm finally retreating into distant grumbles of thunder. Alara sat on the worn wooden floor, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, staring into the small fire. Kale moved around the room with a quiet efficiency, stoking the flames and checking the windows. There was something in the way he moved, controlled, precise, almost predatory, that made her skin prickle. She tried to push the thought aside. He had saved her life. He had given her shelter. And yet, something wasn't quite human about him. You're staring, Kale said abruptly, his voice breaking the silence. He leaned against the doorway, eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. I just wonder about you, she admitted, voice hesitant. You don't act like anyone I've ever met. You move differently. And your eyes. He raised an eyebrow, expression unreadable. My eyes? Golden, she said, almost whispering. Not brown, not blue. Gold, like sunlight through amber. Her heartbeat quickened as she realized she had been staring at them without noticing. Kale's jaw tightened slightly. You notice details most people miss, good or bad. Alara blinked, flustered. I don't know. Maybe both. A flicker of something, curiosity, amusement, crossed his face. Curiosity is dangerous, he said softly, especially when you don't know the full truth. Then tell me, she challenged, her voice stronger than she expected. I need to know why you're like this. Why you're different. He shook his head slowly, a shadow of a smile tugging at his lips. Some things are better left a mystery. You're safer not knowing everything. Alara frowned, but the knot of curiosity in her chest only tightened. Safer, or afraid. Maybe you're afraid to tell me because you don't want me to run. Or maybe you don't want me to see what you really are. Kyle's golden eyes darkened slightly, and for the first time, his facade of control wavered. He moved closer, so close that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. You're clever, he murmured, and bold, dangerous even. She shivered, not from the cold, but from the intensity in his gaze. Maybe I just don't want to be ignored, she whispered. He studied her, silent for a long moment, as though weighing the cost of revealing something he had guarded for years. Finally, he stepped back, his posture tightening, voice low and guarded. Curiosity can be costly. Be careful, Alara. Some truths are not for the faint of heart. Her pulse raced, a mix of fear and fascination. Whatever he was hiding, it was powerful, and it made the air between them crackle with tension. She wanted answers, but more than that, she wanted to understand him, to know him, danger and all. The night stretched on, the fire casting long shadows across the cabin. Alara couldn't shake the feeling that every subtle movement, every word, carried a hidden meaning. Kale wasn't just different. He was extraordinary, and she was already drawn too far in to turn back. As she drifted toward a restless sleep, she realized that the mystery surrounding him had ignited something she hadn't felt in years. A spark of daring, a hunger for truth, and a pull toward a man she didn't fully understand, but couldn't ignore. The sun rose pale and hesitant over the forest, casting golden streaks through the misty canopy. Alara stepped out of the cabin, still wrapped in the warmth of the blanket Kale had lent her. The storm had passed, leaving the woods quiet, almost reverent, as if the forest itself were holding its breath after the chaos. Kale was already outside, kneeling by a small stream, washing his hands in the cold water. His golden eyes flicked up, catching hers. You should eat, he said, voice calm, almost gentle. You need strength if you're going to keep up with me. I can manage, she replied, though her stomach protested, reminding her that she hadn't eaten since morning. He stood, muscles taut beneath damp clothes, and offered a hand. I insist. It's part of surviving out here. Something about his insistence, firm yet protective, made her hesitate. Then, with a small sigh, she accepted. He guided her to a small wooden table inside the cabin, where he had prepared a simple breakfast: bread, fruit, and water. As she ate, Alara studied him. He moved with careful precision, every motion deliberate, yet there was a softness in his gestures when he thought she wasn't watching. It was the first crack in the barrier of the man who had seemed so untouchable, so unyielding. You don't have to be strong all the time, she said cautiously. Even alphas need someone to lean on. He paused, the spoon hovering above the bread. His gaze met hers, and for the first time, there was no guard, no feral intensity, just the faintest glimpse of vulnerability. You make it sound easy, he murmured. But trust is hard, especially for me. Alara's hand hovered near his, tempted to reach out. Why? She asked softly. What makes it so impossible? Kyle exhaled, a low, almost painful sound. Because I've lost people I cared about. Because opening myself, letting someone in, it comes with consequences. I've learned the hard way that vulnerability can be deadly. Her heart ached for him, for the loneliness and pain hidden behind the golden eyes. I know what it's like to feel unsafe, she admitted. To run from things you don't understand, from people who should protect you but don't. I've spent most of my life running. He studied her, the lines of his face softening, and for a moment, Alara saw him as more than the mysterious alpha. He was a man shaped by loss, fear, and the weight of responsibility. You've been running, he said, almost a whisper. And now, you've stopped. Why? Because I'm tired of hiding, she replied, voice steady despite the lump in her throat. I don't want to run anymore. Not from life, not from you. His lips curved in the faintest smile, hesitant but genuine. Then maybe we can learn to stop running together. The words lingered in the air, carrying an intimacy neither of them had yet admitted aloud. Trust wasn't given freely, but in that cabin, over the warmth of shared food and confessions, it was beginning to grow. Small, fragile, and undeniable. Later, as they walked through the forest to stretch their legs, Kale's hand brushed hers. Neither pulled away. The contact was fleeting, yet electric. A silent acknowledgement that something deeper was forming between them. You're different from anyone I've ever met, he said quietly, eyes scanning the trees. Clever, brave, willing to face the unknown. I respect that. Alara's heart fluttered. I could say the same about you, she admitted. Even though I don't understand you completely, yet I feel drawn to you. Kale stopped, turning fully to face her. The sunlight caught in his wet hair, casting golden highlights that matched the intensity of his eyes. Drawn? Or trapped? He asked, half teasing, half serious. Alara smiled despite herself. Drawn, she said firmly, meeting his gaze. I choose this. The corners of his lips lifted into a small, approving smile, the tension in his shoulders easing. Good, he said simply, because I choose you too, even if it's dangerous, even if it's complicated. In that quiet forest clearing, amid the whispering leaves and the promise of a day untouched by danger, something shifted. Trust was no longer just an idea. They were actively building it, step by step, word by word, touch by touch. And for the first time, Alara allowed herself to hope that she had found someone worth trusting, someone worth staying for. The forest, serene in the morning light, had a deceptive calm. Alara walked beside Kale, her boots crunching on the damp earth, her senses on high alert. She had begun to trust him, had begun to feel safe, but the undercurrent of danger she couldn't ignore still hummed in the air. Kale's ears twitched slightly at a distant rustle, his body stiffening. He glanced at her, eyes sharp. Stay close, he warned. His voice carried the weight of authority that brooked no argument. I'm fine, she said quickly, trying to mask the flutter of fear in her chest. He ignored her protest, moving like a shadow through the trees. His heightened senses were apparent, every movement precise, controlled, lethal if necessary. Alara felt herself shrinking slightly, realizing just how outmatched she was, and how dependent she had become on him for protection. The source of his tension appeared suddenly. Another figure emerged from the mist, tall, muscular, and unmistakably human, but something about him radiated a predatory aura. Kyle's posture stiffened further. Trouble, he muttered. Alara's breath caught. Who is that? Kyle didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped in front of her, shielding her from the newcomer. A rival, he said finally. One who doesn't like outsiders, or anyone who challenges his authority. The man's eyes glinted with malice, and he spoke, voice smooth but threatening. So this is the girl the Alpha hides? The human who thinks she can walk in our world? Alara felt a chill crawl up her spine. She had never faced anything like this, never imagined being caught in the hidden politics and deadly rules of a supernatural pack. Yet the pull toward Kale, the bond she was slowly learning to accept, made her stand her ground, even as fear gripped her. Kale's jaw tightened. She's not your concern, he said sharply. His protective instincts flared, golden eyes blazing. Leave, or face consequences you won't survive. The rival smirked, circling them with calculated confidence. You always protect your mate, don't you? He taunted. Afraid she'll see the wolf beneath the man? Alara's heart skipped. Mate. The word resonated, primal and undeniable. The bond between her and Kale, the strange pull that had guided her through the storm and into his world, felt suddenly heavier, charged. Kale's hand brushed hers, grounding her. Stay behind me, he said, voice low but firm. No matter what. The rival lunged, a blur of aggression, and Kale moved with lethal precision, intercepting the strike. The forest erupted into chaos. Branches snapped under powerful blows, and the air vibrated with the sound of snarls, shouts, and the clash of strength. Alara ducked instinctively, adrenaline sharpening her reflexes. Kale's gaze never left her, a silent reassurance that he would protect her, no matter what. And in that moment, she realized how much she trusted him, not just with her life, but with her heart. The fight escalated, and Kale's movements became almost inhuman, fluid and deadly. Alara could see glimpses of something otherworldly in his eyes, in the way his body responded faster than any human should. Fear mingled with awe as she watched him defend her, and the realization struck. She had stepped into a world where every moment was survival, and where Kale's secret strength was both a shield and a warning. Finally, the rival staggered back, assessing the fight's toll. Kale's golden eyes glowed fiercely, a predator claiming territory and protecting what was his. The man smirked once, then vanished into the mist, leaving behind an uneasy silence. Alara exhaled, relief and fear tangled in her chest. Is it over? She asked shakily. Kale stepped close, brushing damp hair from her face. For now, he said, voice softer. But danger isn't gone. Out here, there's always another obstacle. Another test. She nodded, feeling the weight of his words. Survival was no longer just about navigating the forest or evading storms. It was about navigating the complex, dangerous world Kale belonged to, a world she was slowly becoming part of. Her hand found his, gripping tightly. Then we face it together, she said, determination lacing her voice. Kale's lips curved into a small, approving smile, tension easing slightly. Together, he agreed. The bond between them pulsed quietly, strengthening under pressure, solidifying trust, and drawing them closer with every shared danger. And for the first time, Alara realized that even in a world of predators, power, and secrets, she had found someone worth standing beside. A man who was not just an alpha in strength, but an alpha in heart. The forest was quiet now, though the tension from the morning's confrontation still lingered in the damp air. Alara followed Kale deeper into the trees, curiosity and fear mingling like a tangible pulse between them. Something had shifted during the fight with the rival pack member. An unspoken truth hovered just out of reach. A secret that Kale had been guarding, and she could feel it pressing at the edges of her mind. They reached a small clearing where the sunlight broke through the canopy, illuminating a rock-strewn area that seemed untouched by the storm. Kale stopped, turning to her, his golden eyes serious, almost haunted. "Alara," he said slowly, voice low, deliberate. "There's something you need to understand about me, about the world you've stepped into." Her heart skipped a beat. "I know you're not human," she said, voice trembling slightly. "I can feel it. You're different. But what are you?" Kale studied her, searching her eyes as though testing whether she could handle the truth. Then, with a deep breath, he began. "I am a werewolf, alpha of this territory. And you are my mate." The words hit her like a physical blow. Her mind scrambled, trying to grasp the enormity of what he had said. "Mate? What does that mean?" He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming yet comforting. "It means the bond between us is ancient, predestined. You are tied to me, body and soul, by forces older than either of us. The pull you feel toward me, the way our instincts respond, it's not coincidence. It is fate." Alara's pulse thundered in her ears. The forest seemed to lean in, as if the trees themselves were listening. "You're saying I'm fated to you? That this us is inevitable?" Kyle nodded. "Yes, and it isn't just desire or attraction. It's a bond that runs deeper than thought, stronger than fear. You will find your senses attuned to mine, your emotions intertwined with mine, and I will protect you, always." Fear mingled with awe. "But the dangers, the pack, the world you live in, it's so different. I'm human. How can I survive in that world?" He took her hand, fingers wrapping around hers with surprising gentleness. "You've already survived more than most humans could. The bond will help guide you. It will awaken strength you didn't know you had. And I will be there, every step of the way." A silence stretched between them, heavy and electric. Then Kale's form shifted, slowly, deliberately, into a massive wolf. Golden eyes, powerful muscles, fur glistening in the sun. Alara froze, fear mingling with fascination. "You," she whispered, awestruck. "You're magnificent." The wolf tilted its head, gaze fixed on her, and something primal stirred in her chest. She realized she wasn't just afraid. She was drawn, magnetically, to the creature that was Kale. Not just to him as a man, but to the power and raw presence of his wolf form. "Don't be afraid," Kale said, voice low in her mind, a mental connection born of the bond. "I am still me, still the one you trust, still the one who saved you. But now you see the truth. This is who I am. This is who we are together." Alara's knees weakened, and she sank to a nearby rock. I don't know if I can handle this." Kale shifted back to human form, kneeling beside her. His golden eyes softened, warmth radiating from him. "You will," he said firmly, "because this bond chooses us for a reason, and because fear is temporary. Trust, love, they endure." Her chest heaved as the weight of the revelation sank in. She had stepped into a world of magic, danger, and destiny, but she was no longer alone. Kale was beside her, alpha, protector, and mate. The bond pulsed subtly, a golden thread weaving through their connection, unbreakable and undeniable. She felt it in her bones, her heartbeat, the very air around them. I don't understand it all," she admitted, voice trembling. "But I trust you, and I want to try." Kale smiled, a rare, unguarded expression of relief and pride. "Then we face it together. Every danger, every secret, every challenge. You are mine, Alara, and I am yours." The forest seemed to exhale around them, sunlight glinting through the leaves as if blessing the bond that had just been unveiled. The world they had stepped into was dangerous, unpredictable, and wild. But now it was theirs to face together. The forest was heavy with mist, shadows curling around the trees like tendrils, and Alara's unease had grown into a steady ache in her chest. Kale had been distant all morning, quieter than usual, lost in thought. Something in the way he moved, controlled but tense, made her stomach tighten with an unfamiliar fear. "Kale," she began, hesitant. "What's wrong? You've been different since we left the clearing." He didn't answer immediately, his jaw tightening as he stared at the horizon where the mist met the tree line. Finally, he spoke, voice low and guarded. "There's something I have to do, something I can't take you along for." Her heart dropped. "You're leaving me? Why? After everything?" He turned to face her, golden eyes flickering with emotion she hadn't seen before, pain, conflict, and a trace of guilt. "It's for your safety," he said firmly. "There's a rival pack stirring, one that doesn't recognize human mate bonds. If I involve you, if they sense the bond, it could be fatal." "I don't care!" Alara's voice cracked. "I'm not a child to hide. I chose this. I chose you. If you're going into danger, I'm going with you." Cal shook his head, a shadow of sorrow crossing his face. "I won't risk it," he said, stepping closer. His hand hovered near hers but didn't touch. "Not you. I can handle myself. But you, Alara, you're human. Vulnerable. And I won't forgive myself if anything happens to you because of me." Tears threatened to spill, frustration and fear warring within her. "You think keeping me in the dark will protect me? That's betrayal, Kale. I trusted you." His expression hardened, not in anger, but in the heavy weight of responsibility. "It's not betrayal. It's sacrifice. Sometimes protecting the ones you love means keeping secrets, even when it hurts. Believe me, I hate it more than you can imagine." She swallowed, trying to steady herself. She understood the intention, but the ache in her chest was real. Trust had been building between them, delicate and vital, and now it felt as though a wedge had been driven through it. "Then let me share it with you," she said, voice quiet, but firm. "Let me face the danger alongside you. You can't protect me by hiding me. You protect me by letting me stand beside you." Kale studied her, eyes searching, flicking between concern and reluctant admiration. Slowly, the tension in his shoulders eased, though his jaw remained tight. "You're reckless," he murmured, almost to himself. "And brave. Dangerous combination." Alara stepped closer, tilting her head up to meet his gaze. "I'm your mate, Kale. That bond isn't just about protection. It's about facing everything together. Secrets will only break us if we let them." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then finally he sighed, golden eyes softening. "You're right," he admitted. "I shouldn't hide it from you, but the danger is greater than you realize. The rival pack, they are relentless. If they learn about our bond, they'll use it against us." Alara nodded, determination flaring. "Then we face them. Together. No hiding. No secrets." He studied her, and for the first time, he allowed himself to fully appreciate her courage, and the strength that mirrored his own. "Very well," he said finally. "Together. But promise me, you'll trust me when I lead, even if you don't understand every step." "I promise," she said, and for the first time the ache in her chest eased, replaced by a steely resolve. Whatever danger lay ahead, they would face it as one. Betrayal had been avoided, sacrifice had been understood, and the fragile bond of trust was strengthened through honesty and courage. As the mist swirled around them, Alara reached for Kale's hand. This time, he didn't hesitate. Fingers intertwined, the warmth and strength of their bond grounding them both. Whatever the rival pack, whatever trials lay ahead, they would face them together, unbroken, as mates bound by destiny and choice alike. Night had fallen over the forest, thick and heavy, with the moon casting a silver glow through the mist-laden trees. Alara's pulse raced, each step through the underbrush echoing the fear and anticipation coiling inside her. The rival pack had not relented. They had tracked them, relentless in their pursuit. And now Kale moved with a lethal precision she had never seen before. "Alara, stay close," he commanded, voice low, yet resonating with a strange reassurance. His golden eyes flickered in the moonlight, scanning the shadows for threats. "I'm right behind you," she called, voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. Fear clawed at her, but so did determination. She had made her choice, to face the danger, to trust him, to stand as his mate. Suddenly, the underbrush exploded with movement. Figures lunged from the shadows, snarling, eyes glinting with malice. Kale was instantly between her and the attackers, a blur of motion. Every strike precise, lethal. Alara ducked instinctively, feeling the rush of air as claws tore the ground mere inches from her. "Kyle!" she screamed, her voice raw with fear. One of the attackers broke through his defense, claws raking across his shoulder. Pain flashed in his golden eyes, yet he didn't falter. He roared, a deep, primal sound that resonated in her chest, and the intruder was flung backward, crashing into the trees. Her heart thudded painfully as she watched him. "You can't take them all alone," she shouted, fear spiking. Kale turned, expression fierce, and for a moment, their eyes locked. "I'm not alone," he growled. "Not while you're with me." Something surged between them, something primal, raw, uncontainable. The bond pulsed, golden threads of energy intertwining, syncing their heartbeats. Fear transformed into strength. Adrenaline sharpened her senses, and she felt an unfamiliar power rising from within. She was human, yes, but connected to him in a way that made her more than human, more than ordinary. In that moment, she didn't hesitate. She stepped forward, taking the stance Kale had shown her, instincts sharpened by the bond. She moved in tandem with him, a predator and mate side by side, each action coordinated by a trust deeper than words. Together, they became unstoppable, a single force against the darkness pressing in. Finally, the last of the attackers fled into the night, snarling and defeated. The forest fell silent once more, save for their ragged breathing. Alara collapsed against Kale, trembling, tears streaming freely. I was so scared," she admitted, voice shaking. Kyle wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close, golden eyes softening as he pressed his forehead to hers. "I know," he whispered. "I felt it too. And yet, we survived, together. You were incredible." Her chest heaved, the bond still thrumming, still connecting them in a way that left her breathless. "I felt connected to you, like I could do anything if I was with you," she admitted. Kale cupped her face in his hands, eyes searching hers. "That bond, it's not just about protection, it's about strength. You have it inside you, Alara, and I see it now, fully. You're not just my mate, you're my equal." Emotion overwhelmed her. She had come so far, from fear, from running, from the shadows of her past, to this moment of raw, undeniable connection. "Kale, I trust you. Completely," she whispered. He smiled, a mixture of relief and reverence. "And I trust you. Completely. Always." As they stood in the moonlit clearing, holding each other, the danger behind them, a new understanding blossomed. Fear had been faced, trust had been tested, and their bond, once fragile and tentative, had solidified into something unbreakable. For the first time, Alara felt not just safe, but empowered, alive, and certain. The emotional breakthrough wasn't just about surviving the threat, it was about realizing that together, they could face anything. That the bond they shared was stronger than fear, stronger than danger, stronger than the world itself. And as Kale pressed his lips to hers, gentle but possessive, Alara knew in her heart that this was only the beginning. The first light of dawn filtered through the treetops, spilling across the cabin's wooden floor in warm, golden streaks. Alara sat on the edge of the bed, her fingers tracing the worn grain of the surface, still trembling slightly from the night's events. The fight, the fear, the bond, they had all culminated in something undeniable, something deeper than attraction, deeper than instinct. Kyle entered quietly, the soft creak of the door announcing his presence. His golden eyes softened immediately upon seeing her, and for the first time, the protective alpha barrier seemed to melt just enough to reveal the man beneath, the one she had begun to trust and care for. "Alara," he said, voice low, deliberate, carrying the weight of the unspoken. "I need you to hear this. I can't keep it inside anymore." Her breath caught. She had waited for this moment, sensing its inevitability. Yet now that it was here, fear mingled with anticipation. "What is it?" she asked, voice barely more than a whisper. He stepped closer, the heat from his body radiating toward her. "I love you," he said, each word deliberate, grounding and unshakable. "I have from the moment you stepped into that storm, from the moment you chose to follow me. It isn't just the bond, Alara. It's you, your courage, your fire, your heart. I love you completely." Tears welled in her eyes, and her lips trembled as she reached for him. "Kale, I love you too," she admitted, the words spilling out with a vulnerability she hadn't allowed herself in years. "I've never felt anything like this. I trust you, and I can't imagine not being with you." The golden glow in his eyes deepened, flickering with relief, passion, and something almost sacred. He closed the distance between them, cupping her face in his hands. "Then it's real. We're real. This bond. This... us. It's not just fate. It's choice. Every day I will choose you. And I know you'll choose me." Alara pressed her forehead against his, heart hammering. "I will," she whispered. "Every day. Even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous. I choose you, Kale. Always." The bond between them pulsed, golden threads of energy weaving invisibly but tangibly around their hearts, syncing their breaths, their emotions, their very essence. In that moment, the world outside, the threats, the rival pack, the dangers of the forest, faded into insignificance. All that mattered was this: Kale and Alara, mates bound by destiny, trust, and love. Kale lowered his lips to hers, slow, possessive, and tender all at once. The kiss spoke of everything they had endured, of every fear faced and every trust earned. Alara responded instinctively, wrapping her arms around his neck, holding him as if letting go might shatter them both. When they finally broke apart, breathless and flushed, Kale rested his forehead against hers again. "This, us. It will not be easy," he said, voice soft but firm. "The world is full of danger, but whatever comes, we face it together. Always." Alara nodded, heart full, emotions raw and beautiful. "Always," she echoed, and in that word was promise, commitment, and a recognition that their love, once uncertain, tentative and fraught with peril, was now unshakable. Outside, the forest woke to the first birdsong of morning. Sunlight glinted off dew-laden leaves, casting sparkling reflections into the cabin. It was a new beginning, not just for the day, but for them. The love they had unveiled was no longer hidden, no longer tentative. It was alive, fierce, and theirs. For the first time, Alara felt completely at home. Not in the cabin, not in the forest, not even in the human world, but in Kale's arms, with the bond that would guide and protect them through every danger to come. And Kale, for the first time in years, allowed himself to fully hope, fully trust, and fully love. Together they stood on the edge of destiny, hearts bound, fates intertwined, ready to face everything the world could throw at them. Love had been revealed, and it was unstoppable. The forest was tense, almost unnaturally still. Kyle and Alara moved side by side, every sense alert, every step measured. Word had come from the rival pack. They were regrouping, more determined than ever to claim territory and disrupt the bond between Kale and his mate. The final confrontation was imminent. Alara's heart pounded, but she didn't falter. She had trained, learned, and strengthened under Kale's guidance. The bond pulsed with energy between them, golden threads connecting their hearts and instincts. She was no longer just human in this world. She was his mate, and together they were formidable. Kale's golden eyes scanned the mist-laden tree line, muscles coiled like a spring. "Stay close," he murmured, hand brushing hers. "Once this starts, there's no turning back." "I'm ready," she replied, voice steady, courage anchoring her fear. Together. From the shadows, the rival pack emerged, snarling, eyes glowing with malice. The leader, a massive alpha with scars that mapped his battles, stepped forward. "So this is the human who dares to claim the wolf," he growled. "She shouldn't be here. She isn't one of us." Kyle's posture shifted, predatory and commanding. "She is my mate. You will not touch her," he warned, golden eyes blazing. A tense silence settled over the clearing before the fight erupted. Claws tore through the mist, teeth flashed, and the pack lunged with feral precision. But Kale and Alara moved as one. She had learned to read him, to anticipate his movements, and the bond amplified their coordination. Every strike, every dodge, every counterattack was synchronized, instinctive, unstoppable. Despite their skill, the rival pack was relentless. Kale was forced to fight with ferocity, yet he always shielded Alara, placing himself between her and danger. Fear surged in her chest, but she refused to be passive. She used what she had learned, instincts heightened by the bond, striking when the opportunity arose, keeping herself and Kale safe. The battle reached its climax when the rival alpha lunged at Alara. Time seemed to slow. Kale reacted instantly, shifting into his wolf form with a flash of gold fur and blinding speed. He intercepted the attack, pinning the rival to the ground with a growl that shook the trees. Alara watched, awestruck and breathless. The golden threads of their bond pulsed between them, amplifying courage, strength, and connection. She stepped closer, placing a hand on Kale's shoulder, feeling the warmth and power radiating from him. "We're stronger together," she whispered. Kale met her gaze, eyes softened by love and trust. "Always," he replied. Then, with a surge of strength, he pushed forward, ending the fight decisively. The rival pack retreated, beaten and wary, leaving Kale and Alara standing victorious amid the trampled foliage. Breathless, covered in mud and sweat, Kale shifted back to human form, pulling Alara close. "Are you hurt?" he asked, voice rough with concern. "I'm fine," she replied, heart racing. "Because we fought together. We survived together." He cupped her face, golden eyes scanning hers, and smiled, a mix of pride, relief, and unspoken love. "You are incredible, Alara. Stronger than I ever imagined." She smiled back, leaning into him. "And you? You're mine. Not just because of the bond, but because I choose you. Every day. The forest seemed to exhale. The danger dissipated, leaving only the quiet hum of life returning to the woods. The rival pack's threat had been neutralized. The final test of their bond survived. They had faced the ultimate challenge, together, and emerged stronger, inseparable, and unshakably united. Kyle pressed his forehead to hers, golden eyes soft. "We've proven something tonight," he whispered. "Not just to them, but to ourselves. Nothing can break us. Nothing can touch this bond." Alara smiled, heart full. "And nothing will," she said. "We're unstoppable. Together." In that forest clearing, amid the aftermath of battle, Kyle and Alara stood side by side, mates bound by destiny, love, and choice. The final challenge had tested them, but their bond had endured, unbroken, unshakable, and everlasting. The forest was bathed in the soft glow of dawn, the first light spilling through the trees like a blessing. The mist had lifted, revealing a world renewed and calm, a stark contrast to the chaos and danger of the past days. Alara stood beside Kale at the edge of their clearing, hand in hand, breathing in the fresh, crisp air that smelled of pine and rain. Kale's golden eyes were softer than ever. The tension that had gripped him for years finally eased. "It's over," he murmured, voice low but certain. "The rival pack won't trouble us again. For now, we can be free." Alara leaned against him, feeling the steady beat of his heart through the bond that pulsed like a golden thread between them. "I can't believe it," she whispered, awe and relief lacing her voice. "After everything, we survived. Together." He pressed a kiss to her forehead, gentle but possessive. "Not just survived, Alara. We thrived. We proved that nothing, not threats, not secrets, not danger, can break what we have." The bond between them hummed, golden and tangible, stronger than ever. The world of shifters, of fate and danger, no longer felt like an alien threat. It was home, because they were together. They had navigated the storm, fought the battles, and emerged not just as lovers but as partners in every sense. Alara's gaze swept over the forest, the cabin, the remnants of the battle that had tested them. "And now?" she asked softly, looking up at Kale. "Now," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "We build our life. We take the pack, the forest, this world, and we shape it together, on our terms, free from fear, united by choice and destiny." Her lips curved into a smile, tears of relief and happiness glistening in her eyes. "Together," she echoed, voice steady. "Always." Kale's lips met hers in a kiss that was tender, passionate, and full of promise. Every danger, every fear, every heartbreak they had endured melted away in that embrace. The bond pulsed stronger than ever, affirming their love, their connection, and the unshakable truth that they belonged to one another. In the days that followed, the cabin became more than a refuge. It became a home. The pack recognized Alara not as an outsider, but as Kale's mate, her courage and loyalty earning respect. They explored the forest, trained together, and strengthened the bond that had been sealed through trials, trust, and love. Evenings were spent by the fire, voices and laughter mingling with the whisper of the trees. Nights were spent entwined, hearts beating in synchrony, golden threads of destiny and choice wrapping around them, unbreakable and eternal. Alara no longer felt the weight of running or fear. She had found her place, not in the human world she had fled, but here, beside Kale, in a life forged from danger, love, and unwavering trust. Kale held her close as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. "Whatever comes next," he murmured, voice low and steady, "we face it together. Always." Alara rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart, feeling the pulse of the bond that connected them. Always, she whispered back, knowing in her soul that their story, forged in storms and fire, would continue, stronger, brighter, and bound by a love that could never be broken. The forest whispered around them, the world alive and peaceful at last. And in that serenity, they found not only safety and acceptance, but the ultimate truth. Love, trust, and destiny intertwined to create a life they would share forever. Together, Kale and Alara stepped into the future, mates, partners, and soul-bound companions, ready to face whatever the world might bring, certain that, side by side, they could overcome anything.